Uh, Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. Third time's the charm indeed. Alright. Well. Hey everyone, Marms here, and you're listening to the introductory episode of my brand new interview series that I'm going to have going on now. For this interview, I talked with my friend JB, who is the creator of the upcoming interactive fiction game experience, whatever you want to call it. You know, we kind of get into that in the interview a little bit. But I had the chance to speak with him about his project and learn a bit more about it and some of the history behind it. So I was, very excited to be able to talk with him. I'm hoping to keep doing this series going forward, interviewing other creators and learning about some projects that, maybe otherwise people might not be able to hear about during, their time on the internet, or different things, just different things that people are spending their time, their limited time to create, and just learn more about those things. So if you're interested in sort of coming along on this journey with me, please be sure to stick around to, like, follow, and subscribe, of course. So, without further ado, please enjoy the interview I had with JB about his upcoming game, Ordinor Ultor. Hello everyone, Marms here, and today I'm here with my friend JB, the creator of Ordinor Ultor, to ask him a few questions about his upcoming game. So JB, thank you for coming into the proverbial recording studio again for totally not
For the
the third
third
time.
time.
Yeah, this is the third time we've done this, folks. Not a really good start to my professionalism here, but it's all a learning process, and mistakes are made. We don't
Yes,
need
the
to talk
first
about those
time.
mistakes, but
The first interview was axed because of Marms's perfectionism, which, you know what, I can't fault him for. The second interview got axed because, for some reason, it did not record my end of the audio, which I can fault him for.
yeah, that was my fault. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That was, I don't know if that's the most appropriate saying, but that's what I'm feeling right now, folks. So I'm
Well,
glad.
let's hope we can go for a hat trick.
Yeah, let's see. We can do this. What didn't we do last time? Well, I mean, we asked. There's a lot of good questions that I asked last time that I'm hoping I'll be able to remember now. But maybe let's just start off with an easy one. So, JB, what is Ordinor Ultor?
Yeah, so Ordinor Ultor is a interactive fiction game built in Twine 2 Sugar Cube 2.6 point something. I don't remember the exact version numbers. I in one ear and out the other when it comes to that sort of thing usually. You play as the as a rebellious duke looking to overthrow your tyrannical liege after they wronged you and your family one too many times, and you can choose one of three ways to do so. That's the canned elevator pitch.
I see the can. Well, can you elaborate on those three ways that you can do this, or what are the capabilities that you're having that you're planning for
There,
Ordinor Ultor?
yes, the three ways, the three different paths, however you want to call them, even I'm not sure on the nomenclature yet, are an assassination, a trial, and an armed rebellion. And really, they're all kind of just they're exactly as they sound. Either you bring the liege before part of the rest of their vassals to put them on trial for all their bullshit. You lead an armed rebellion, or you just go, "Hey, you there, stab that dude." Obviously, that is a vast oversimplification, and there will be actual challenges to overcome on an assassination route. It's not just going to be one and done.
Absolutely. I mean, those sound like they're very straightforward, but there's a lot of complexity open for you from what I understand. And how would you
Mm-hmm.
say that your inspiration? I know you talked a little bit about it on your Tumblr, which is again, I
Yes.
think Ordinary Ultor IF.
Ordinor Ultor Dash IF, yes.
Okay, I know that you talked about it a bit on there, but how would you say like your inspiration of from Crusader King is sort of is going to be influencing, or how it has influenced those different methods of regicide that you're currently planning for your game?
Yes. Well, obviously, I mentioned like the stats are inherited from Crusader Kings for the most part, and really each route will be associated. Will mainly use one or two stats. Currently in the game and throughout development, and even once it's done, there is an option to turn off stat checks. But if you keep stat checks turned on, generally each route will focus on like one or two different stats. Like obviously, the assassination route will use a lot of your intrigue stat, which is stuff for subterfuge and lying and all that good stuff. The rebellion route will of course use martial and prowess, which are your strategic slash tactics stat, and the latter being your personal fighting stat. And then of course the trial route will use a lot of your learning stat, which is a sort of which involves a whole bunch of things from science to legalism. There's some other minor inspiration, such as a bit of dynasty focus, like family is of course one of the major things in the game, obviously, considering how it starts and how the main conflict is kicked off. But that's not as big of an influence from Crusader Kings. That's just sort of something that's sort of there, if you understand what I mean, or sort of coming to its own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I mean, like how you use that sort of as a basis for your game, but then you developed it from there, and
Yes.
you're making adjustments as you go along. I know you're fairly in the early stage of the project. Would you mind telling everyone
Mm-hmm.
where they can currently find the current build or the current demo of the game?
Yes. It can be found on my itch.io page. Let me quickly check the link,
Yeah.
or because I can't remember some of this stuff for the life of me. It's yeah, Kaiser Loki dot or Kaiser Loki dot itch.io slash Ordinor Ultor. And a link to that can also be found on my on the pinned post on my Tumblr page.
As you were sort of building that and working on it, what would you say was your favorite part of it? Working on this current build.
This current build, honestly, I'm not really sure. That's actually kind of a hard question. There's some good stuff. I think probably just the interactions with other characters that you can have, such as that you like messing around with your siblings and such. Like you had the option to steal one of the twins' bacon,
Oh yeah,
which
that's
was
right.
and something that actually gives me the giggles is that of the three checks in the demo, all three of them are prowess checks, and two of them are against Bertrand slash Bertrada, your second youngest sibling. In the interactive fiction community, it's kind of like having skill checks can be a bit divisive. So I've always figured it might be a good idea for those who don't like them to turn them off, because personally I do like them, but I understand why people don't. So it's in my opinion, this way it gets the best of both worlds. Although it could certainly be more. It could there could definitely be it could be done more elegantly. That's for certain.
I know we talked about it in our second time going through this, but I wanted to see touch base on the hub based aspect of your game that you have going on. But I guess before we do that, we should maybe talk about interactive fiction as a whole. Um, so my question for you then is like, how did you get involved with this? How did you end up in this medium? And how did you get interested in interactive fiction?
I think I've told the story on my blog before, but basically, I'm into the World of Darkness and specifically the World of Darkness TTRPGs and specifically Vampire the Masquerade. One day back in 2020, shortly after it was released, I saw Vampire the Masquerade Night Road on the Steam store. I don't remember exactly how I saw it. I think it was in the recommended queue or something along those lines. But I bought and played it and had a lot of fun with it. And I checked it out on TV Tropes once or twice, and then throughout the past few years, and then one day last year I was browsing the page again, and TV Tropes mentioned that the publisher of Night Road, Choice of Games, I saw that Choice of Games had its own TV Tropes page, and on that page there were pages for other games published by them, such as games under its host games label, like Fallen Hero, for example, which is one of my favorites. From finding that page, it all just kind of grew from there.
In terms of the medium and the impact of Fallen Hero and other games like it, how do you think that has influenced what you're doing in Ordinor Ultor? Are you trying to do something a bit different than what those games off? Because of course, interactive fiction is a narrative-driven genre, so it's
Yes.
very narrative focused, and it's very choose your own adventure type, in that you make a choice and then you see how that it builds upon each other, and you have one sort of set path. How would you say that has impacted your work, and how are you working with or against that?
That's a good question. It's a little hard to answer, but the best way I guess I can put it is that Ordinor Ultor has, in a lot of ways, like some mechanics that, or just some mechanics and narrative stuff that I wish more games had. Like, like as I again going back to Night Road, that is a more gamey, for lack of a better term, um, IF, in that, like I mentioned, it has a quote unquote hub area from where you can choose to do missions in any order. Whereas in other games slash books, you kind of have the order in which things happen is a bit more set in stone. And I like that approach more of being able to choose what you do and when you do it more. I like that approach more, so that's kind of what I've gone for. Besides the mechanical stuff, when it comes to characters, I've also put some of the stuff I want to see more. Like, there's in addition to just the four single romance options, you can also have polyamorous options, and I love triads. I'm gonna say that I do like my polyamorous options, so that was a no-brainer. And then of course, one of my favorite romance tropes is a childhood friend romance, which is of course, C or Charles slash Charlotte. So yeah, generally It's more just I'm basically putting into Ordinal Ultor stuff that I want to see more of, rather than sort of rebelling against stuff I don't like. If that makes sense.
I see what you mean. Yeah, thank you for sort of talking a bit about that aspect of your work. Um,
No
since
problem.
we're touching a little bit on like that romance option and some of that, talking a lot about tropes and all that stuff. I know you're a very big, again, like you're talking about, a very big consumer of TV tropes and stuff like that. One thing, talking about the medium of interactive as fiction as a whole, we were talking a little bit about like, oh, is it a game or is it a book? Game book slash that,
Mhm.
that terminology. Do you have any thoughts on that, or anything like, in terms of like the definition of liter not literary fiction, interactive fiction?
Well, I try not to be too, for lack of a better term, anal about definitions, because really most stuff it's a sliding scale. Like, most things do not neatly fit into one category. They're on a sort of sliding scale. Like, stuff is on like most interactive fiction is in a sliding scale between more book like versus more game like, if that makes sense. That is.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, we were just talking about like hub based versus, you know, narrative based storytelling in that sense, and talking about the different, it's all sort of a scale, or uh, what's a different word than scale, like a map almost, of where you can take your interactive fiction, which I think is what's really fascinating about the genre. Medium, medium.
I
Back
didn't
at
even
old
notice it
habits.
until you corrected yourself. God dang it, I need to pay closer attention.
And so going off of that, the difference between uh, interactive fiction experience that's more like a book and one that's more like a game. Ordinary Ultra is going to be more of a game-like experience.
Yes, in the overall sense, there might be sections that are a bit more not linear, but like more set, if that makes sense.
And that
But
would make
yes,
sense because obviously
yeah,
your game has to begin and it has to end, so you kind of have to sort of you
yeah,
can't really mess with those confines. So I can imagine,
exactly.
it's kind of easy to imagine where you'd probably end up having a more structured storytelling.
Yes, and I do like to have more sort of like mapped out stuff occasionally. So that sort of when I'm not, basically I have two modes. I either write by the seat of my pants, or I go really in depth on planning. And this project has rapidly oscillated between those two modes.
As all good writing should, there's always just a little bit of planning and a little bit of, you got to see where it goes. You got to go with the flow a little bit.
Honestly, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Marms.
Well, JB, I wanted to ask. So, I'm thinking we can come back a little bit. So, how would you say, your inspirations for Ordinor Ultor have changed this project, or how have maybe your goals, and maybe a better way to phrase it, like, taking your inspiration and starting with like the very base version of Ordinor Ultor, how's the experience evolved over time? And I guess to sort of give us a nice roundup here, where do you see Ordinor Ultor going forward?
That is a very good question. Um, when it comes to inspiration, it's honestly kind of funny because if anything, I would say for the most part, Ordinary Old Tour on its own, like the base, has mostly been actually most of it has been me just coming up with stuff on my own. It's mostly been background stuff that's been like inspired by media I like, like some of the Amikheimer stuff with H Hilmar slash Hilda. Some of that's been, I'd say, like that's the biggest source or biggest example of stuff being inspired by something rather than me like sort of randomly creating it like I'm God on the seventh day. Oh God, cut that
Very
one out.
pros. Nope, that's staying in.
Oh,
That's staying in now. We're not cutting that
oh
one out. We gotta
curses.
show you how. We gotta show the world how egocentric you are. No, but
Oh,
um,
curses. I'm gonna have to go to confession for that one.
yeah.
Damn.
Dang. Take
But
that to your
anyways, and
Tumblr.
then
Take that to your Tumblr asks.
take that
Get
to
all
my
your
Tumblr.
mutuals on this.
Oh God. Anyways, and ironically, funny thing is, I don't know if this exactly counts, but one of my Discord friends actually inspired me to add another heritage option because originally it like right now there's 6 options for you to choose where your character's mother is from, but originally there was only 5, and I only added the Warish option, the pseudo Polish option, after like talking with one of my Polish friends.
And there you go. See,
So
inspiration comes from everywhere. Definitely.
exactly.
Well, I think we've talked about a lot of stuff here.
Yes.
Um, I do.
And before you also wanted to ask me where I saw Ordinor Ultor going.
Yes, that's what I was gonna
Immediately
say.
forgot that. Yes. But yeah, honestly, it depends on how well I handle it because Lord knows I'm not the greatest at handling it. Honestly, I would hope to be able to expand on it and write a sequel. Whether or not that will still follow the same character, who knows? But I'm hoping that people will enjoy it enough for me to be able to write a sequel to it.
That would be awesome.
That's my
Yeah,
hope. Yeah.
Definitely. That would be, that's a big goal for a lot of people working on their projects and their creative projects is to
Yeah.
hopefully inspire people to be interested in more. When can people expect the next update for Ordinor Ultor?
Honestly, a smaller update will probably be dropping around within a few days of this interview. The next large update will probably be sometime between September and November, I think. The next big update.
That sounds awesome. Do you think that yeah, we'll have to touch base later, maybe when we receive the quote unquote final version of Ordinor Ultor, we're gonna have to touch base again and just sort of reflect on the project and hopefully see what you will have cooking up after that.
Here's hoping.
Well, JV, thank you again for taking the time to speak with me tonight, and I wish you the best of luck with the future.
Thank you for having me, Marms. It's been great all 3 times. And thank you for the well wishes. I wish you well with your interview series as well. It's going to be interesting to see who else you interview.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. It's gonna be great. I'm very excited to see who else I can, talk to and sort of learn a bit more about different things as I go along. But should be a lot of fun. Well, in the meantime, have a good night. Hello, everyone. Marms here. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to me and JB talk a bit about his upcoming project, Ordinor Ultor. This is the first in my interview series going forward. Very excited to see what other creators that I can talk to, in the future. If you are a creator or if you're, someone who would be interested in talking with me, please, make a comment down below. In the caption, there's going to be a section where I have my email set up there. So please, send some info there if you're interested in speaking with me. In the caption, you'll also see I provided links to all of JB's projects, or all the links, all the important links to his Tumblr and to his Itch.io page. So please be sure to take the time and check those out if you'd be interested. Very appreciative of the time that JB has spent working with me on this. Now, the last thing I wanted to add before I leave here is that I also have a link in the caption for an unlisted video, which is it's a longer form video. It's about 30 minutes or so long, where it's just the full unedited thing of what JB and I did together. Definitely a bit messy, but I thought, for the heck of it, for this first time, I post that as an unlisted link so you can sort of see where I had to make adjustments and where I tried to get the video to where it was. So if you're interested in checking that out, check that out in the caption below. But again, thank you all for listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I hope you have a great day. But wait, there's more. I also have a little snippet from the full unedited interview coming up right now. Here's open. Well, JB, I'd like to thank you for your extreme amounts of patience with me in learning out this system and trying to figure out what I'm doing. Thank you for being willing to talk with me 3 separate times now about this project. And I am excited to see what you do next with it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's been great all 3 times. It's just
all 3 times.
And besides, I don't charge hourly, Marms. I charge by the minute.
Cut the tapes. Cut the tapes. Somebody get my lawyer. This is not agreed to. This was not in our Google Docs contract, all right?